Hello and welcome back to Art Masters with me, Mrs. Portilla. Today we'll be doing work by Rembrandt. Rembrandt used a lot of these muted reds and browns, but he used this amazing light and dark to focus in on something. So today we will be using Rembrandt's light and dark, making something he liked to draw, windmills. We'll be using the black as our dark shadow and the white as our highlight, just like Rembrandt's chiaroscuro. So when you're ready to do our windmills, let's get started. So one of the things Rembrandt liked to draw or paint were windmills. So today we're going to be doing windmills, focusing on basic shapes and light and dark, just like Rembrandt. So when he started, and when most artists start, we start with basic shape. So we can use our white crayon to sketch, or if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, you could do a light sketch with your pencil and then go over it with crayon. So I will show you two ways. Also, I'll have some basic shapes of windmills up on the next slide. You'll notice. Also, I'll have some basic shapes of windmills up on the next slide. You'll notice it's kind of like a big cylinder, right? Or maybe a rounded rectangle. So we have a long rectangle, but it's not a perfect rectangle. And it has a rounded top. And then we'll notice the big X for our blades, our windmills. So the first thing I would do is about in the middle of my paper, I would just put a little dot. So that's just a dot for me to see, so it could be super, super light. Then I'm going to draw a flattened ball. So what does that mean? Well, a ball would be like a circle, right? But if I smooshed it down, it would kind of be like an oval or an ellipse. And you'll notice that I like to kind of go over my shape lightly a few times. I don't try to get it perfect because this is my sketch. Okay. Look, I'm not even touching the paper. I'm practicing moving my whole hand, and now I'm going to lightly go on the paper, this ball. Now what that's going to be is that's going to essentially be the top of our windmill. So that's why I'm lightly sketching it. So if I was going to do that with pencil because I'm not that comfortable, I would put a dot in the middle of my paper, and then I would do the same thing, super light. If you want to start with your crayon, great. If you feel more comfortable starting with pencil, we're doing a light sketch. So let's start with a dot and then a flattened ball or like an oval shape, just like this. Not too well. So now we're going to draw more of the cylinder or glass shape, right? So this would be like a cylinder, like a bottle of water. So I'm going to use a straight edge or just a scrap piece of paper to make things a little bit easier. And I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom of the paper. I might go like put your hand from the bottom and I'll go about there. Okay, so again, if you like dots, let's do some dots. So I might put just a dot there, and then I would grab my paper, my straight edge, and I would go from this side down. And you see how I'm doing it at a diagonal, not just straight, okay? So I'm gonna make it a little interesting, and I'm gonna do a diagonal shape, lightly sketch, okay? And then I'm gonna do that on the other side. Okay, we don't need to erase just yet, so if you didn't make it perfect, that's fine. This is the basic sketch. If I'm gonna use my crayon, I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, so let's get that second basic shape. Okay, so we're just kind of adding two diagonal lines, and we want some space from the bottom of our paper. Okay, lovely. Now we are going to add kind of a smile at the bottom. Okay, we're adding a smile or stretched out U, and that's going to be the bottom. Okay, so this person made their little bottom part a little bit more in. Person just connected the whole thing and added details later. Okay, same with this person. So I'm going to use my pencil or my crayon, and then instead of a straight line, I want it to be curved like a happy face. Just like that, okay? And then I would add 2 lines. 1, 2, and then I would make another happy face right underneath, just creating that bottom shape. Now, if yours is super close to the ground, like mine, I can make my happy face shape here, and then I can make my second happy face shape above it, so I have more space for landscape, okay? So let's go ahead and add a little happy face shape underneath, and if you're too close to the bottom, you can move it up a little bit, just like that. Okay, great. So now, again, here's some of the pictures of our little windmills. You can see there's a separated top. This one kind of comes out a little bit more like a little dress with 3 sections. This one has more of a square, a rounded square top. Okay, and this one has almost like a little hat. So now we're going to make the outside of our lighthouse look a little bit more like a lighthouse instead of just a basic shape. I'm gonna go over with my outline, and I might flare out the edge a little bit and then connect. And now I'm pushing a little bit harder, okay? And then maybe I need my line to go down a little bit more. And I want my top to come up a little bit higher. Okay, this one I'm gonna now go over in crayon. Okay, so this one, maybe I just want this to be a dome, like this. Okay, just like a dome. And then I'm gonna actually make my line go a little bit more in. Okay, so we're basically gonna outline our shape using our crayon. So we're done with our pencil. We're gonna make the outside shape look like what we want, okay? Okay, excellent. Hopefully you guys have either seen this sheet or if not, I'm gonna show you real quick. So if we wanted to get a dark to light, we would push hard with our black, and then I slowly lift my hand and I don't color as hard. And then I make my lines very light and separated. So that's gonna give me some light and dark. So we have dark to light. It's called value, okay? So that's what we're gonna be looking at to do our shape. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pick a light source, just like the sun, okay? So I'm gonna pretend my sun is up here on this side. I'm just gonna put a little dot for me to know that that's my sun, okay? So that means the light is coming from this side. So this side's gonna be the lightest or the whitest. So just like this is a 3-dimensional cylinder, and my light happens to be coming from this side. A super bright white spot there. And then as I go over here, you'll notice it gets darker and darker and darker, okay? That's something that's 3-dimensional. You have one side that's super, super light, and then it gets darker. So watch me first. So for this one, I'm gonna do this shape and then this shape. So this is where my sun is, so this part is light, or for instance, white. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push hard with my white, following my shape. Let's say about 2 finger widths of white. Okay, just like that. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on my little bottom shape. Okay. Now, if I was doing this shape, I'm gonna do this in 3 little sections, right? So I'm gonna do my top part, following the shape. Okay, did you see how I pushed really hard and I went over it a few times? Okay, and then I'm gonna do the same thing for my bottom part of the shape, or my middle, following the shape, following the curve, and then my little bottom section. So everybody grab your white, and then we're gonna do about 2 finger widths of pushing really hard to get a nice thick white streak. Okay, good. So now like my value scale here, we have white, and then we have like a medium color, okay? So for our medium color, I'm gonna use my white again, but I'm not gonna push as hard. Okay. And you'll notice I'm using the black of the paper for my dark. So for this shape, I'm gonna start right at my white streak, and now I'm still following the shape, but I'm not pushing as hard. Okay, so I still followed the shape, I just didn't push as hard, okay? So now I'm gonna do the same thing here. So you'll notice, I didn't just scribble, I went with the shape. I did strokes up and down and followed my shape. So go ahead and let's make our medium color, not pushing as hard as this side, pushing a little bit lighter, and we're gonna make this one maybe 3 fingers. So now we're gonna push barely at all to nothing. So we're gonna push very, very lightly, and then we're gonna leave nothing. Okay. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you with my black, just so you guys can see it a little easier. So I would start like this, really, really, really light pressure. I'm not even pushing. And then I'm separating my lines. So they're not even together, okay? Okay, so now I'm gonna take my white crayon right next to my other shade. And I'm gonna start into my shade, and then I am barely pushing, you guys. And I'm gonna bring my hand over, and as I'm bringing it over, I'm separating my lines. I'm not coloring overlapping a bunch, just like that. Super, super light to almost nothing. Same thing here, super, super light, following the shape to almost nothing. Okay, so now you're gonna do super, super light all the way to the side. Okay, so now we're gonna get into some of the details, okay? What do we need on that windmill? What's the main detail we're missing? Those blades, right? Those windmill blades. So that looks like basically an X. So I'm gonna start with a dot where I want my X to cross. So you might want yours here to be right in the middle or close to the top. So mine, I'm gonna have my X cross right here, and I'm gonna put a dot there, okay? For this one, I'm gonna put my X more in the middle, right there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a straight edge, a ruler, or a piece of paper. It's up to you how big you want those blades to be. And you're gonna go right into your drawing. Okay, you see how I went over it a few times to get it nice and bright? And now I'm gonna crisscross right in front of that dot. Okay, and let's do this one. Okay, so let's everyone put a dot where they want their windmill blades to cross. And then we're gonna use our white crayon and do the X. Okay, lovely. Let's get some details on these windmill blades. So you might want to make them like have a little square with some netting or little squares within. We can make it look more like a triangle. So this one, I might just go like this. I could use a straight edge or freehand. I'm going to add a little line down on the top ones. And then I'm going to go from this dot to there. I could use my straight edge. Okay, and then I would do the same thing at the bottom. But this time I'm gonna have my little line go up and my little line go up. So I'm doing my 2 bottom ones. And then I would use my straight edge to the dot. For this one, I'm gonna make a straight line down like the other one and a straight line down. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the top 2 the same. But this one, you could use your straight edge or freehand. I'm gonna draw a straight line, not all the way to the dot, and I'm gonna make that a square. So I'm gonna make it go about to here. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna go down. So I really have to scribble to make it show, push hard. So now I have 2 different types blades. So go ahead and just fill out your shape a little bit with either doing a square or a triangle to fill up your blades a little. So now with your blades, you could fill them in with white or you could do a pattern. Okay, very nice. So now I'm noticing with This one, I'm gonna make the arm a little bit thicker just by using my white. So I don't want a floating lighthouse. I want my lighthouse to be attached to the ground. So I might draw a little hill with a path. So I'm just going to, right at about the middle or so, right kind of towards the bottom, I'm just gonna add a light line, making like a little hill shape. Okay. This one, maybe I wanna do a little bit more of a curved hill. All right, so I'm gonna add a little bit of a landscape line. And then I want some more details. So we might want to add some windows and doors, which are just simple shapes like rectangles or ovals. So I'm going to introduce the black crayon. The black crayon is going to help us with a little bit of the details. So I'm going to draw a door here. This could be a round door or a rectangle door. And I'm still going to leave some white. So I might just put a little handle there. And then I need some windows, so I'm gonna do some rectangle windows. And perhaps I need a pathway. Okay. So let's draw some basic details. Do a door and a couple of windows. And you can use the black crayon just to draw the outline of the shape, and then we'll get to a little bit more with the black crayon. Okay, so now with our black crayon, we can help out some of our shapes. On one side, maybe you want to add a little bit of a black line on your blades. Maybe on the dark side, so remember our sun is here, so we don't want to put black on this side, but we could put it on our dark side. So maybe on my dark side, I'm just gonna outline part of my shape to help with that little bit of shadow. I also might want to color in my windows. One or so lines on the dark side, and we colored in some of our windows. Okay, so your landscape might need a little of attention. We could do some grass, you could do some rocks, and we could color in lightly with some texture with our white. Okay, so let's do some final touches. We should have a little bit of a landscape, and then you'll notice with my black, I really only put it on my shadowed side and maybe helped out some of my shapes. So now I'm gonna just kind of look. Does anywhere need a little bit of help? Yes, so I'm noticing this is getting kind of mushed together. So I'm gonna take my black very carefully and just add just on the corner to make that shape pop. I didn't scribble a lot, okay? Same thing here. Just on the little bottom corner, I'm just giving it a little idea of a shadow. If I outline the whole thing in black, it's gonna kind of smush it down, and I don't wanna do that. You need to color in your door to make it look a little bit better, okay? Or you might need to add just a little hint of black here and there. The other thing you might want to do is to take your white crayon, and you might notice that this side isn't really popping enough for you. So what I would do is my sun is still coming from here, so I would take my white crayon and I would just push really hard and layer to add just a little bit more of a white highlight. Maybe for you second graders, you might want to add a little bit of a highlight on your windows. Okay, so we should have some highlights, some shadows, and it should be looking three-dimensional. So when we are finished, we're gonna turn our paper over. We're gonna glue our Rembrandt sticker on the back, and we're going to put our name, and then you're gonna turn it in to your teacher. So great job today with your Rembrandt windmill. Great job today, my friends, doing your light and dark windmills by Rembrandt. If you have time to evaluate, let's point out where that light source is coming from, that white and the shadows, and any details that you notice about each other's work. So great job today, my friends, doing your Rembrandt windmill.